In the quiet hope of every parent, there is a dream that their child will go to school, build a future, and one day return home successful, safe, and smiling. But for the family of Alice Riang'a-A, that dream was shattered in a way that left an entire nation heartbroken. Alice Riang'a-A was a young university student full of ambition, purpose, and promise. Like many students across Kenya, she carried the hopes of her family on her shoulders. She attended classes, worked toward her future, and dreamed of a better life ahead. To her friends, she was kind and determined. To her family, she was a daughter whose smile brought warmth into their home. But then came the silence. Days passed without anyone hearing from Alice. Calls went unanswered, messages were ignored, concern slowly turned into fear. Her family searched desperately for answers, praying that somehow she would walk through the door again. Friends shared her photos online. Students whispered anxiously across campus corridors. Everyone hoped for good news. Instead, tragedy arrived. Alice's body was later discovered in a forested area in Bondo, Siaya County. The news spread quickly, leaving students, parents, and communities in shock. A young life, filled with dreams and potential, had been cut short in a brutal and heartbreaking way. For her family, the pain became unbearable. Reports described the emotional moment her father identified her body, collapsing under the weight of grief no parent should ever have to carry. In that moment, the story stopped being just another headline. It became the reality of a family destroyed by loss. Across social media, Kenyans began asking painful questions. How many more young women must lose their lives? How many families must mourn before real change happens? How safe are students walking to and from campuses every day? At Jaramogi Oginga University of Science and Technology, students protested while demanding justice for Alice. Voices rose not only in anger, but also in fear. Many young women saw themselves in her story. Many parents imagined their own daughters. Of every parent, the tragedy became part of a larger conversation about violence against women, and one day return home successful, and the urgent need to protect young people. Smiling. But beyond the family of Alice Riang'a-A, beyond the protest, dream was shattered in a way that left an entire nation heartbroken. Alice Riang'a-A was a human being. Alice Riang'a-A was a young university student, someone's full of ambition, someone who laughed and hoped, prayed, like many students across Kenya, and she carried the hopes of her family on her shoulders. Because somewhere in her final days, worked toward her future, and dreamed of a better life became empty. To her friends, she was kind and determined. Dreams that were still being written suddenly ended without smile brought warmth. Yet even in grief, many people continued to speak her name because they do not want her without anyone hearing from Alice. They want justice. Went unanswered. They want awareness. Messages were ignored. They want change. Concern slowly Perhaps turned the greatest lesson from Alice's story is that every life matters, for answers, and silence in the face of violence only allows more pain to grow. Friends shared her photos online. Communities must protect one another. Students whispered anxiously across take safety seriously. Everyone society must continue speaking against violence. Tragedy arrived. Alice's body was later discovered in a forested area in Bondo. It is a reminder of how fragile life can be, how leaving students, parents, and how urgent communities in shock. Justice and protection are needed in our world. Filled with dreams and potential, may her soul rest cut short in a brutal and heartbreaking way. For her family, the pain became unbearable. Reports described the emotional moment her father identified her body, collapsing under the weight of grief no parent should ever have to carry. In that moment, the story stopped being just another headline. It became the reality of a family destroyed by loss. Across social media, Kenyans began asking painful questions. How many more young women must lose their lives? How many families must mourn before real change happens? How safe are students walking to and from campuses every day? At Jaramogi Oginga University of Science and Technology, students protested while demanding justice for Alice. Voices rose not only in anger, but also in fear. Many young women saw themselves in her story. Many parents imagined their own daughters. The tragedy became part of a larger conversation about violence against women, insecurity, and the urgent need to protect young people. But beyond the investigations, beyond the protests, and beyond the headlines, Alice Riang'a-A was a human being. She was someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone who laughed, hoped, prayed, and planned for tomorrow. And that is what makes the story so painful. Because somewhere in her final days, a future disappeared. A classroom seat became empty. A family table lost a voice. Dreams that were still being written suddenly ended without warning. Yet even in grief, many people continue to speak her name because they do not want her story to be forgotten. They want justice. They want awareness. They want change. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Alice's story is that every life matters, and silence in the face of violence only allows more pain to grow. Communities must protect one another. Institutions must take safety seriously. And society must continue speaking against violence in all its forms. Today, Alice Riang'a-A's story remains more than news. It is a reminder of how fragile life can be, how deep loss can cut, and how urgently compassion, justice, and protection are needed in our world. May her soul rest in peace.